Third thing that was a quick thing, but it was, I think it was a little bit helpful. The VNAC board authorized to publicize the VNAC support for reauthorization of the XM Bank. Very important to some of our members. And we hand-delivered a letter to every member of the congressional delegation in the context of the key votes that were taking place on the Hill a few weeks ago, coordinated with one of the major coalitions in Washington on that, and also coordinated with NEI on that. So it was a nice, the best thing for me was when we were talking to the congressional staff and handing them the letter, when they saw the kind of the membership and the makeup of VNAC, they were quite impressed. Again, I think it's a powerful brand that works. And when they see, these guys, so, okay, they'll listen to us. And you know how
I'm sure it tipped it right over.
Absolutely, here's the difference. So.
But you can't relax.
You can't relax.
We only got 5 years.
That's right, no we won't. So then finally, it's kind of exciting, NEI has approached us to look for put on a joint NEI VNAC Nuclear Issues Conference in Virginia. And that will probably take place in February or March. We're going to kind of coordinate that and maybe see if even the governor can come be the keynote speaker. So we are working right now within VNAC on an agenda, what that would be. And we have some research focus, and we have some industry focus, and actually some of you ladies and gentlemen who are in the sort of nuclear supply side of things, we'd love to get some input from you and hope that we can have the right kind of agenda and speakers and presentations that you guys would be interested in coming and participating. My view is that we need to come out of that conference with some ideas about, okay, how do we enhance nuclear going forward in the economic side in the Commonwealth of Virginia? So look for more on that. We've done a couple of draft agendas, we're getting input from the VNAC board, and we'll be trying to finalize an agenda on that with NEI in the next couple of weeks. This time of year is tough, but we're going to do what we can. Yes?
If this is an operational question and you're not ready to answer it, say so.
Yeah.
But I just, in terms of conferences, some of the more process issues that maybe the board will have questions about are the VNAC role in terms of funding or support.
NEI has offered to fund the whole thing.
That's the right answer. Thank you.
They've been great. I mean, this is actually very important to them. So they see this as the first of a number of these kinds of conferences they want to do around the country, and it's just perfect for what VNAC is about. I mean, it just makes all the sense in the world. Just they saw what we're about, we're at least somewhat organized and so forth, and said, this seems to be an excellent partnership. So
this
that's
would be in Richmond.
Yes, because frankly, if you saw, we're trying to schedule this maybe while the legislature's in session. And again, that's why we think we get the governor a keynote, and we can get some of those folks here as well as folks statewide and so forth to see what we can do here.
And let's see if we can tap into the NAYGN chapters.
Oh, absolutely.
NAYGN,
women in nuclear, yeah, all that. So that's a kind of quick update. There's more you can read. Certainly always communicate with me on those issues, but we're trying to move fast as we can, given all the usual limitations.
Questions, ladies and gentlemen? I do want to compliment Bob Bailey on this outstanding area that you have. This what a facility that is. Now that I've had a chance to see it via pictures, and I had a chance to share that with the American Nuke Society, to share it with a number of the universities to see if there might be a willingness on the part of the other national universities to fund research and development, and this activity is ongoing. So I hope to have some feedback in the first couple of months of 2016.
Don, timing on that. We may be wanting to reach out to you in the right time frame for some written support from ANS or something like that.
Sure.
We're piling up support letters and support. We have universities in the state, universities internationally, other organizations. We're really trying to put together a powerful thing to demonstrate to whoever the target is that this is the thing to do.
Agreed. Now, what I did was just took the information that Bob sent me and just gave it to them as a first cut and said, okay, what would you need from us in order to send something out to the universities to get their attention? So I'll get you engaged with that also, Marshall, a little bit. Yeah. We could use some help with that. And then I had to attend the council what we call Scientific Society Presidents, CSSP, that meets in Washington. And quite honestly, it's quite boring most of the time. It's amazing how much you have to learn about hydrology and geology and other things. Like, people have no idea what nuclear is in the vast majority of organizations. So we started attending these and talking to them. And when I mentioned your facility, I got quite a bit of interest. So I think that you may find that there are some non-nuclear folks that see some application for research and development that they believe your facility might be able to provide them. So if that's acceptable, I don't want to close the door on the opportunity.
No, absolutely. I mean, we've said all along that a lot of those capabilities, while they were designed for the nuclear industry, are much broader than that. So.
Well, that's the way we saw it too, so good. We'll just follow up on that.
Next month, Embry is going to tour it as well.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's really good. They've done a wonderful job of bringing people through.
And I think what this shows, ladies and gentlemen of the board, is the fact is, just as Marshall said, the VNEC brand, with the kind of support it's having from its member organizations, is truly getting traction. It's truly showing, demonstrating that there is a unique application of activities going on in the Commonwealth that shows a real commitment to nuclear and recognizing its true benefit to the quality of life of the citizens here. So I'm really excited about the things you're doing. I really think you can really do a lot to inform those who otherwise are not so informed. Any questions for Marshall before we release him? Very well. Hearing none. Thanks again, Marshall. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next thing I want to talk about just for a moment really just carries on right into this. And that is that there's a lot of things going on in the country right now that we have an input to and we are affected by. So it's important for us to be out there influencing it and attempting to have some kind of say in where it's going, why it's going there, and how, if at all, it affects the Commonwealth and how the Commonwealth can actually play a supporting role in that activity. So I didn't know this was going to show up on the side, but nonetheless, I'm just going to go through a couple of things, a little introduction and background, what's going on with the premature shutdown of nuclear plants in the U.S., what legislation we put in front of Congress, the Clean Power Plan implementation, what does that mean, where is it going, what are we doing with the Commonwealth, and for that matter, other states, and some other activities. Simply put, most of you all know this, I'll just quickly run through it. Up until 2013, we had 104 operating reactors in this country, more than any other country in the world. In December 2015, we currently have 99 operating reactors and one in startup. As you know, Watchbar was given their operating license and they're just about finished with their startup processes now. So we have a total of 100. So that means that during that time frame, while we had one more startup in Watchbar 2, we had 5 plants and several of them were prematurely shut down. I'll come to that. There are 4 EP1000 in construction in Georgia and South Carolina, as you're aware, and there's 5 sites in some level of active decommissioning. Zion, Santa Monica 2 and 3, Crystal River 3, Kewanee, and Vermont Yankee. So with that going on, now there are 2 more announcements of 2 plants that are prematurely shut down based solely on the economic conditions. Pilgrim in Massachusetts, Fitzpatrick in New York. Have you all been watching some of the press that's going on about this? I imagine you have. We've been attempting to do something about this, and there's an element of what the Virginia Nuclear Energy Consortium Authority can do. It's just an element of being represented in this. But because of this, because these 2 plants are prematurely shut down based solely on economic conditions previously in Kewanee and Vermont Yankee, and now with Entergy having announced 2 more site premature shutdowns, and they're saying that the increased operational costs, they have an annual loss of $40 billion alone from the operational program. So the point is that the energy market is severely flawed. Are you all familiar with just the general aspects of how the energy market is currently being conducted as far as the act of purchase of kilowatts or megawatts on the grid? If you're not, if I could, well, you probably know more about this than I do. Just quickly state right now what's happening. Our nuclear power plants, and I'll speak very generally, are being, and you know they operate best at 100%. You put the power out on the grid, and then the load dispatcher distributes it. But they stay at 100%. Their base load capacity capability. We're being required, many of the utilities are being required in the middle of the day, the worst time of all, to derate the plant and to acquire power through either wind, solar, or other, obviously, applications at a price that's much greater than they could have developed themselves, and then selling at a price less than what they could have sold. As you can well imagine, that doesn't work well if you are in a business, and all of our utilities are in a business of safely operating their nuclear facility. The energy market favors subsidized wind and solar. And as you probably know, we've spent hundreds of millions of dollars, and for that matter, billions of dollars in research and development, and even more than that in subsidizing wind and solar, and they still only provide 3.9% of the electric generation in this country. The U.S. energy market recognizes no unique value for nuclear. And while we produce affordable, available, reliable energy 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, as the only environmentally friendly baseload energy supply. There's a lot of confusion about what baseload is, and many of our politicians use the expression wind, solar, and nuclear in the same breath, giving the false impression they're all created equal. We know better, but that doesn't mean the public necessarily does. And so unfortunately, we have a real job here to try to overcome that. So what does that mean when you really talk about the nuclear power plants? What does each one of these plants do? This is research I've been doing to facilitate moving forward, not only to the Virginia Nuclear Consortium Authority related to what we're talking to the governor and the legislator about, but what's the rest of the country look like? Because Virginia, although it's a commonwealth, doesn't stand alone. The fact is it's the second largest importer of electricity in the United States, second only to California. Imagine you're aware of that. So as a result, there's a great deal across the state lines of power wheeling and dealing related to different kinds of entities. So Virginia cannot act in a vacuum. It has to acknowledge what's happening here. So if you take the current 100 plants, if Watts Power up and running, each one of those 100 plants generates approximately $490 million a year in goods and services in the state in which it operates. Each one of those plants will create nearly $46 million in total labor income per year. Each one of those plants facility generates 700 to 1,200 permanent jobs, which pay 36 to 40% higher than anything else in the local area and the state, simply because the 700 to 1,200, whether or not that's actually a part of a fleet and you have a home office too. Permanent jobs at nuclear plants create equivalent numbers of support jobs locally. Grocery stores, restaurants, dry cleaners, car dealers. Nuclear is good for the economy. Good for the economy. Each dollar spent by the average nuclear plant produces $1.04 in the local community. It's good to live close to a nuclear plant, make no mistake about it. And when the plant shuts down, you cry like a baby, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Each nuclear plant generates an average of $16 to $20 million in state and local tax revenue for schools, roads, similar infrastructure, police, fire stations, and things of that nature, which arguably should be a good thing for most informed citizens. And the federal tax payments of each nuclear plant is roughly $67 billion, and given our deficit, we could use another $670 million in tax. And the cost of waste is included in nuclear, and not in any other energy source. We have no idea how we're going to dispose of the things related to wind, and of solar, and batteries, and things of that nature. So what's it do for the environment? Nuclear produces approximately 20% of our current energy in this country, yet it produces over 63% of the carbon-free emitting energy in the United States. So if there were no nuclear, we couldn't meet a single carbon-emitting rule that we ever created anywhere. It's just not possible. It's a law of physics, not a law of man. Actions. What have we done? We've reached out to the leadership of Energy and to the governor of New York to attempt to broker some agreement to keep Fitzpatrick operating. We formed a special group that's called the ANS Special Committee on Nuclear in the States, and I'm going to come to what some of the things we're doing, but we're trying to acknowledge and recognize this discussion's been going on for years, and we imagine every plausible scenario has been addressed, but we're not entirely sure.
I just want to mention, who's we?
The Special Committee on Nuclear in the States, formed by the ANS that I currently chair. Maybe I didn't say that.
That's okay, I lost the pronoun.
That's
I'm
fine,
back
it's
on
fine,
board
it's
now.
all right. I probably didn't say anything about it. So what we're basically doing, come back to this. Oh,
No, keep going, you were on a roll, I just needed to make sure who he was.
No, I just want to make sure that we understand that we talk about energy, environment, and the economy. Those are the major things. So we've reached out to the leadership. We've also been in discussions with Energy to keep Pilgrim operating, and we're developing generic information to inform the state and federal government officials about the value of nuclear. So let me come out of that. What are we doing, actually? We're developing a toolbox. What we're going to be doing is developing, we're almost done with it, we'll have the first draft on December 15th, a toolbox for the state governors and their administrations to utilize to facilitate recognizing what they can do to ensure that nuclear is seriously and appropriately considered in the asset portfolio of their respective states, including the Commonwealth. And in doing so, we're showing them both the state and the federal tools that can be utilized to ensure nuclear provides the contribution of both energy, economy, and the environment that it can and should and currently does in so many areas. In order for us to do that, we have engaged a number of different activities, including the research capabilities of the University of Tennessee and, for that matter, MIT, and they're going to be reaching out to you pretty soon, Sama, because they're going to want input from you about what do these scenarios look like. We are basically mapping how the whole country looks. One, we're mapping it state by state with the current portfolio of nuclear assets that exist and what it means when you take down one or more in some sequential aspect or all at once. So we're going to show state by state, what does it mean to you from an environmental, an economic, and an energy situation in your respective state if you continue to go the direction you appear to be going and allowing these facilities to shut down. So we're going to show that scenario. In addition to which, we're going to show scenarios where